There are two stories that I want to share with you today. Short stories, which I think out of these stories, there is a lesson that we can learn. There is a lesson that we can apply in our lives. There is a song that I used to sing, that we used to sing in Sunday school. I'm sure it's a well-known song, and I'm sure most of us know the song. With Jesus in the face, and we can smile at the storm. Now Jesus esemkhunjini asesaba isiphepho. Inshona na Jesu muchikendeti nonyemwerero. I know that the Shonas didn't think I can speak in Shona. I will surprise you. There is a story about a specific ship that was planned somewhere around 1907, 1908. Some rich guys came together and decided, what best can we do to spend all these riches that we have accumulated? What is it that we can buy? How are we going to spend this much money? We know in the modern world, when someone gets rich or makes it in life, they buy expensive jets, they buy yachts and all that stuff. These guys decide, what if we build a ship, the biggest in the world? Not only will we enjoy traveling across the world, we will also make more money from this ship. A decision is made 17 September 1908. It is ordered. The greatest ship in the world. The best designers come forward with a plan. At the end, the leading group that was well known in the world, the best team that was trusted in shipbuilding in the world, with the best engineers and specialists, they win the tender. 1909, they start building the ship. It's not an ordinary ship, it's the biggest ship in the world. It takes them 3 years to build the ship. For these 3 years, 3,000 specialists, 3,000 engineers, well-trained, well-versed in fluid mechanics, they come together in Belfast, in Ireland, to build the biggest ship in the world. 46,400 tons later of steel, the Titanic is complete. It was a marvel. It was the best thing they've ever created. And the best people were behind it. And the world was amazed to see such a wonderful project coming together. They say so much steel was used on this ship that rivets, I don't know if you know pork rivets, to put the steel together, to join this place together. They say over 3 million pork rivets were used to bring this ship together. 3 years later, the ship is complete. 10 April 1912. Its maiden voyage, its first trip. The trip was so advertised, so publicized, that the whole world came together just to see the Titanic making its way. The journey was planned from Southampton to New York. Some writers say some people even sold their houses just to come and see the Titanic docked. Not to be part of it, not to go into the Titanic, but only to just come and watch from a distance. They sold their houses. When the Titanic is fully booked and it's ready to go, because there was a coal strike, even other companies from other ships decided to offer their coal to the Titanic so that the world can witness this great voyage. The ship was so elegant. One of the things that is mostly talked about the Titanic is its grand staircase. It was designed to perfection. The greatest minds in the world have come together to create this masterpiece. It was the pinnacle of comfort and luxury, with a gymnasium inside, with a swimming pool, smoking rooms, high-class restaurants, cafes, Turkish baths, and hundreds of elegant cabins in it. This was the best hotel that you could think or even dream of. The engineers were so confident of their work that they declared that Titanic was unsinkable. They said no one or nothing can ever sink it. They went even to the point of declaring that even God cannot sink it. That's how confident they were. That even God, even if he wanted to sink it, they said he couldn't do it because they trusted their engineering knowledge. The Titanic was supposed to be equipped with 48 lifeboats. But at the end, we find that there were only 20 lifeboats loaded on the Titanic. Why? Because they saw it wasn't necessary. They believed they were never going to need them anyway. So there was no need to follow the rules and put what was needed in it. It had also some watertight compartments. It also had some doors that were remotely controlled to certain watertight compartments, which they thought that even if a mistake or something happens, These watertight compartments will keep the ship afloat. And with all these things, they continued believing that the Titanic was unsinkable. People are gathered, the whole world comes to an end. Everyone is watching and they want to see this greatest marvel. Finally, the moment that everyone was waiting for, 10th April, the ship majestically leaves the dock as people are celebrating. Housed in the ship are all the different classes of society. There was room for the lowest, for the poor in the community. There was room for the middle class. There was room for the richest in the world. Among those seen on the ship was J.J. Ashton, John Jacob IV. According to today's calculations, he was worth around $3 billion US dollars. The ship sails into the Great Sea, and in the ship, people are enjoying, people are celebrating. It's a party, it's a holiday, an experience of a lifetime. As they are enjoying 14th April, the ships that were leading the way, they start sending some signals. There is an iceberg. Try to make an effort to avoid it. I can see the engineers laughing at the warnings. 46,000 tons of steel versus ice on an unsinkable Titanic that God can't even sink. The warnings are ignored, and the ship goes straight for the iceberg. By the time they decide, let's avoid it, it's too late. The iceberg cuts into the hull of the Titanic and the water starts seeping in. Those from the lower decks start getting worried with the water coming in. Some of the engineers just take it as the joke of the journey. Some just treat it like they are just trying to raise our adrenaline. Nothing can ever happen to the unsinkable. Just imagine what we are talking about. We are talking about steel, 46,000 tons of it, versus ice. What is ice? Simplify it. An ice pop or an ice lolo or something. Just a big chunk of it. 2 hours, 40 minutes later, the ship is filling with water. There was a live band that was playing jazz, worldly music. Slowly as the water is rising, the musicians changed their tune. From jazz, the music shifted to gospel. Slowly and slowly, they could hear the musicians singing, "Nearer my God today," because water, more and more of it was coming in. The engineers were pounding up and about around the ship, trying to figure out how can this be possible? How can Titanic fill with water? How can the unsinkable be at the brink of sinking? 15th April, the Titanic is underwater. Around 1,517 people are dead. The unsinkable is just the sunk. The world is broken to those news. Lucky enough, some few women and kids are saved from the little lifeboats that were there. Just the wondering, those who are always advocating for equal rights, where were they on this night? Maybe we should add 50-50 men, 50% men, 50% women saved on the lifeboats, and let the others go. Equal rights. Anyway, the best ship in the world, designed by the best men, the best minds, is still underwater till today. As I was going through the Bible, I also find another story of a small boat. Not the best in the world, but a small boat. Its engineers, its designers are not even mentioned. There is a story shared in Matthew chapter 23. Matthew chapter 23, Mark chapter 4, and Luke 28. And Luke 8, sorry. Matthew 8, verse 23, Mark 4, verse 35, and Luke 8, verse 22. These are three accounts of the same story by three different people. What I understand or what I know is that if you ask three different people to narrate something that they have witnessed, not every detail will be the same. Three different people see the same thing in three different ways. If you choose, let's say 4 people here, to go and witness something, and when they come back, they are supposed to report. If I am among those people, I will explain how the event went, and I will also explain how the food was. If the pastor was the other one that you said there, He will tell you about the event and maybe also tell you about the message the pastor delivered. If you ask someone else, they will tell you about the event. They will also add some details about the decorations and stuff, depending on who you are asking. But if you find all three people sharing the same thing the same way, that means there was something special about that thing. If you see three people reporting the same event in the same way, that means there was something about that specific thing that caught each and everyone's eye. If I talk about the food, and Pastor talks about the food, and she talks about the food, that means that food was special. Now, these three writers narrate this account. Mark says in chapter 5, they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When they got out of the boat, Mark 4, verse 35. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were other boats with him. A furious swell came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on the cushion. The disciples woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. Chapter 5 says they went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to him. Let's keep in mind the part that says when Jesus got out of the boat. That was Mark narrating the story. Matthew says, Matthew chapter 8, verse 23. Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we are going to drown." That was Matthew's account. What does Luke say? Luke 8, verse 22. One day Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side of the lake." So they got into the boat and set out. As they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him up, saying, Master, Master, we are going to drown." He got up and rebuked the raging waters. The storm subsided, and all was calm. "Where is your faith?" he asked. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, "Who is this?" All the three writers start the story in the same way. That day when evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, Let us go over to the other side. What I like about this is the fact that Jesus is the one who is passing on the invitation to his disciples. In this story, the disciples are not the ones who are telling Jesus what to do. It is Jesus who is telling the disciples. It is Jesus who comes up with the plan to go into this boat. Unlike in the Titanic, where people were invited into someone's plan, in this boat, Jesus is the one who is inviting his disciples to come along. Now the year is over. We have a lot of plans, resolutions that we got at the end of the year, at the start of the year. And honestly speaking, most, if not all of them, never came to fruition. Of all the plans that we got at the end of the year. Sometimes we take our own plans, our own programs, and bring them to Jesus for blessing. Instead of letting Jesus give us his plans, which are already blessed for us to follow. Jesus comes with the program of the boat and tells his disciples, come, let's go together. Let us go over to the other side, leaving the crowd behind. Jesus takes the first step, the disciples follow. In the Titanic, they followed someone else's program, and it didn't end well. Many times in life, we want to apply or want to stick to someone else's programs. And more often, it doesn't end well. Here is a better plan that I want to propose. To let Jesus lead and us follow. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was. A very powerful statement. Taking Jesus as he is. Understanding your situation, how difficult it might be, but having the faith of taking Jesus as he is. Sometimes we tend to reason a lot. Sometimes we tend to calculate a lot. Sometimes we want to add and subtract things that doesn't concern us. It's high time that we should learn to take Jesus as he is. They used their own calculations in Titanic. They used their own knowledge. They applied the laws of physics. But still, the ship sank. There were also other boats with him. The furious swell came up and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. If you compare all these three writers, the way that they describe how the storm or the waves were hitting on this small boat, Luke's account says he saw the waves over the boat, which means for someone who was standing ashore, you couldn't see the boat. What you could see only was the waves around it, which means it needed maybe some sort of spiritual discernment or prophecy to know that there is a boat in those waves. For those who were sitting in the boat, they were not seeing the waves from the side, but they were seeing the waves from above. That is how difficult the situation was. If you read in vernacular Bibles, when they are waking up Jesus, they don't say we are about to drown. They say we are dying. In their minds, they were already over the drowning. They were already seeing themselves dead. If you bring the engineers of Titanic into this scenario, they will tell you that there is a law of mechanical fluid that they call Archimedes principle. And if you apply that principle in this scenario, they will tell you that this boat is already shipwrecked. The fact that the water was above it, there is no other way to save it. If we read up till this point, we can just close our Bibles and say how many people were there in the boat and then organize a funeral. Because no knowledge, no expertise in this world can save a boat that is already under the waves. But for this specific scenario, there is a Jesus in the boat. The secret is not in the engineering. The secret is not in the expense of the boat. The secret is in who is in the boat. This boat, we don't have much information about. We know it was made of wood. We don't know who made it. But what we know is that it survived the storms. Why did it survive? Because there was Jesus in it. Some made the greatest ship in the world. It was loaded with all the things that you can imagine or think of. The rich people were enjoying in utensils of gold and silver. They were dining. Titanic was loaded to be self-sufficient for the rest of the voyage. One writer says when it sank, there were over 40,000 eggs loaded on the ship. And when it finally is the bottom of the ocean. The sea creatures, I don't know if there are frogs and tadpoles in the ocean. They joined the festives and enjoyed the food. Swam, started breeding in gold utensils and stuff. In a ship that they said even God couldn't sink. But here is a normal boat, a small. Maybe one of the cheapest, considering that Jesus wasn't rich and his disciples. And in this small ship, they faced the challenges of the sea. They faced their own iceberg. And still make a way. As the band is singing in Titanic, nearer, my God today, the disciples are in the same scenario. They wake up Jesus and they say to him, "We are about to die." He wakes up and says, "Peace be still." The storm calms down and I can sense the disciples breaking into a song. I know they didn't have a good voice just like me. But as the waves slowly calmed to the voice of Jesus, they were smiling and singing. With Jesus in the vessel, I can smile. Elder storm, I can smile. Elder storm. With Jesus in the vessel, I can smile. Elder storm, as we are sailing home. And the part that I love most is the part that I asked you to bear in mind. That says, as they reached ashore, Jesus walked out of the boat. Because this boat reached its destination. They arrived where they were going. This boat faced challenges. This boat faced the storm. This boat went through its own iceberg. But all the occupants arrived safely where they were going because they had Jesus amongst them. Amen. I don't know which boat you are on. It could be the most expensive or the cheapest one. But what I know is that whichever boat you are on, there is an iceberg somewhere. There is a storm somewhere, a violent storm. But one boat is going to sink. There is another one that's going to reach its destination. And this one that's going to reach its destination has got Jesus in it. My question to you today is, as you are traveling in the boat of life, as you are facing your own icebergs and storms of life, do you have Jesus somewhere in your boat? Do you have him whom you can wake up and say, "Come and see what this storm is trying to do at me"? Do you have him whom you can wake up to help you in your storm? Do you have him who can hold your hand in your storm? There is a man. There is a man by the name of Jesus. A simple man, not sophisticated, not complicated, just a simple man. What he's asking for is a place in your body. What he is asking for is a place in your body so that you travel with him. In times of your iceberg, you can just shake him awake. And at the end, your body will arrive where it's going. Thank you.